Hello and welcome. This is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and thanks for joining us for Task Manager part number 2. We have a lot more updates in this week. We're going to show you how to create amazing user form, add data to it, and we're going to show you how to automatically customize and also create brand new tasks simply by selecting and opening them up. It's going to be an amazing training. We've got a ton more to cover this week, so let's get started. All right, thanks so much for joining us. Last week we had an amazing training, but we couldn't finish it. We had so much to do in the last weeks. If you missed it, don't worry about that. I'll include the link right down below. Part 1 was great. We created this task scheduler, and now we've got a lot more to show you. Before we do, I want to make sure that you have already subscribed to our channel. If not, I bring you these videos each and every Tuesday, so I want to make sure that you get alerts. Just click on the notification icon bell after you have subscribed, and that'll make sure you get alerts each and every Tuesday, because I create unique and dynamic ways to use Excel, and I want to make sure you get paid for your talents. So this is Excel for Freelancers, making sure that your talents do not go unnoticed. And the best way to do that is with our mentorship program. In that program, I'm going to take you step by step through the entire process of creating your own applications, all the way from defining your application, how to design them, of course, more importantly, how to develop them. And yet I won't stop there. I'll even show you how to deploy them on your own website, creating a passive income stream. Freelance jobs are great, but the fact is there's a freelance trap, and I got in that trap many years myself. You do jobs and you finish up and then you do another job. The money never seems to get ahead. And so I have the same problem. I don't want to see you in that freelance trap, so my mentorship is designed to get you out of that by creating your own products and passive income stream. myexcelmentor.com is the website. You can join us there, and I'll look forward to seeing you. Let's get started, and we're going to take off right where we stopped last week. There is so much that we have to get to in this part 2. In fact, I wanted to say thank you for all the feedback I got from part 1. So many ideas that you come up with were just amazing. Now, I would love to get to them all, but unfortunately, on these multi-parts, the views aren't always there. In other words, the interest kind of dies down after the first one, part 2, part 3, a little less. But you can change that. You can help me create these amazing applications with tons of features that you can use or build or manage or customize simply by doing 3 things right now. 1, share this video. The more you share, that helps me out. That increases the video and it lets me know that you like this application. 2, put a like on this video. If you like this, like the content, it's always great to do that, to like. And 3, comment below. When you comment below, it lets me and YouTube know that you're interested in this video. And of course, I always answer each and every comment. So I'd love to hear from you, some ideas, some feedback, or just say hello. Whatever you'd like to do, comment below. That's going to let me know. Every single morning, the first thing I do is answer your YouTube comments. Look below, you'll see there's an answer to every single one of them. Those are the things that you can do right now to help me create these amazing applications when they're multi-part. So what am I thinking for part 3 based on your ideas, your suggestions? I want to get them in there because you've got amazing ideas, and I want to incorporate everything into this application. So what are they? Well, multi-users, that was the number 1. How do we have multi-users? What about teams? Can we select a specific user and show their schedule? Can we select a team? Or what about sync and update? What if I want to share this schedule and have multiple users make ability to change and update this schedule at the same time? I would love to add that in. Multi-user sharing and sync support is a great feature. What else? Well, I would love to have recurring appointments. What if we want to have an appointment every single day or every single week or every month or different recurring options? It would be great to add that in. And so I would love to put in recurring appointments. Maybe even a day view, a specific day that's going to show more detail, or a single day. I might add that in. I would also like to add a completion status. What about what percentage of the tasks are completed on this day? What percentage are completed this week? That's a great option and not too difficult to complete, so I'd love to share with you how you can do that in your own applications. What about a single click checkbox to mark as complete? Right now, all you need to do is go in and edit the task and then change the completion, but we could make it even easier on single click, just a little checkbox to mark as complete. That's relatively easy to add, and I'd love to share that with you. Also, I would like to be able to have selection change task up update. So that means basically instead of clicking the update, just selecting any cell on any sheet. That's really easy. That's something I can add in no matter what. So when they select any sheet, automatically all the tasks get updated and moved into the right places. So we can do that. What about updating the duration of a task based on increasing or decreasing the shape height? I think that's a really good option. If you want to increase that appointment up to an hour, you just drag that shape up and then automatically it gets updated. That's a really cool idea. I don't know if that was my idea, but it was really cool. I think it was one of our users. I love that idea and I want to be able to bring that to you too. So also I want to unschedule multiple tasks. What if I drag multiple tasks over to be unsubscribed, to be unscheduled? That we can probably add in, and I'd like to add in. We just need to loop through all the tasks based on the certain position and then unschedule them. That's a great idea. What about add to Outlook tasks? That would be really nice, adding the Outlook task. So, and again, what about checking for task conflicts? I think that's pretty important. Sometimes you want to allow certain tasks to overlap, other times you don't. So we should give the user the option to allow for overlap or not. I think that's kind of important. And then also we have maybe a mouse move event on unscheduled. That might be kind of a nice idea. I'd love to bring all those amazing features to you in a part 3 or in a part 4. The best way to do that, again, 3 things: like this video, comment below, and share it. That's going to ensure the views go up, and I know that you're interested in applications like this. All right, we're going to get started. We'll continue right on. Now I want to do 2 more things, right? I want to be able to click on here. I want to edit this, and I want to edit the details of this. I want to change the name, maybe the description. I want to do that, but I also want to click add a task and add a brand new task. And then the last week is next week and previous week. I want to be able to do that as well. So because I want to be able to clear it out. So let's add those macros. The first thing we need to do is focus on the form. Remember, if I click edit, I want to edit all the details using the pop-up form. If I click add a task, I want to add new details. And one other thing I want to do, if I highlight sections inside and I click add task, I want to add a task based on this date, based on the start time, and based on the duration. So we can do all that. It's not too much to write, so let's get on it. Let's write it. I can't wait to show you how we do that. So let's focus on those macros. The first thing I want to do is just go over a few details on our form here, just so we know how I did that, because it's kind of important moving forward. And I've already created this, so because that saves us a lot of time. This video is already probably going to be 2 hours. So if I created this, if I created this during the video, it would be 3 hours. So, but we always pack in tons of value on this. If you want 100 of my best workbooks, make sure you pick up the 100 workbook. It's just $37, and I've included all my best workbooks in there. That helps keep these videos for free. Okay, so in this particular form, I've created a form. We've called it a task form. That's the form that we have, and I've given it this custom background. How do I do that? How do I give it this custom background with this custom picture in here? Well, to do that, I've used just a really basic photo editor called Pixlr, and I've just created a form based on 3/80/20. All I've done is given it a background and then just given it this picture, this icon that I found, and just put it here. And then I saved it as a JPG. So I did that. That was pretty easy, and you can do the same. And then I've just put it in the background. And then all I did is I took the background, I gave this picture background a bitmap, and I've clicked here, and you can see I just have this picture saved here. So when I select that, open it up, and you want to make sure it's stretched. If it's clipped, it's not going to look very good. If it's zoomed in, it's not going to look very good. But if you want to make sure it's stretched, stretch is the one you want, just to make sure it fits nicely. Stretch is perfect. But you do want to make sure that the size of your picture is relatively the same size as your form. That'll help keep things consistent. Okay, so I created several labels here, just basic, and I've created some forms. I've called this task name. This is a drop-down list. I've called it schedule status. A category, we're going to call this category. Priority given a name of priority. See, notice the names here. That's one important drop-down list. A date is called this scheduled date. A time, scheduled time, is a drop-down list. And now this drop-down list is going to be basically set on some times. Let's do that right now. I got to remember to do that. I want to make sure to create a drop-down list based on times, based on these times. I want to do that. I don't want to forget. So formula is name manager. I almost forgot. So new, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it times. And I want it dynamic, so it's going to be based on all these times here. So let's write that down. So I'm going to start it out. It's going to be equal to offset. And I want to start at the first one's going to be this one here, offset. And what do I want to do? How many do I want? I want to count Actually, what I want to do is I want to count blanks. Bring this out a little bit. Okay, so what do I want? I want 96. I'm going to count the blanks this time. So I'm going to use 96 minus, what do I want? Count blank this time. And what do I want? I want to count all the blank ones. We can't use count if or count a because they're based on, they're all contained formulas. So we can use 96. So I'm going to count blank 96 all the way, and then comma 1. I just want one column. So tab out, tab in. Let's take a look at that. I might have to adjust it 1. No, that's perfect. You see that? It's going to go all the way to 745. And that way, if it's less, it'll be less. So that's just what I want. So now we have the times into a variable. So that's important. We need that because I also want to put that. I've already actually added it here. This is, remember this one, we need a drop down list. This is a data validation based on the one we just created. Data validation times. I had already created that, but I hadn't created the named range. So now we have it both times. We're going to need that inside our VBA as well. Okay, so we have times, we have all the scheduled times. Now we have it into a named range. Okay, so moving back into our code, and we also have this based on this time. So all the times are going to be based on this here, and the duration is also going to be based on a named range, but we have that set up already. And the description, and I'll walk you through that. So when I create this, let's go into the code and view the code. I have some code here. So the first thing, when we click cancel button, I'm going to hide the form and unload. This clears all the fields. So again, cancel button. I've named that cancel button. I didn't show you that part yet. So view the option. I've named the cancel button, and I've named the save button, save button. So each one of these has distinct names. So we've given those names, and then we can do click. So even on a picture, you can do click, use the click event. Even if it doesn't show up here, you can write it down. So the save, we're going to run a macro called save. And what else? So the scheduled date after we update this. Remember, we want to make sure that everything's formatted. So after we update it or after we change the date, we want to make sure that it's automatically formatted. So this is the name of our field, scheduled date. Automatically, you can also use me.scheduledate. That works too if you're not sure. me.scheduledate, that works also. But you can, since we're inside the form itself, we don't need to use that. But it helps if you're not sure, you want to check the fields. We're going to format it this. You can format your own dates any way you want to. I'm going to do the same thing for the duration. I want to format the durations. Otherwise, it's going to show as a decimal. So the scheduled duration, I want to format those. That means anytime we change it, so if we launch that form, anytime we change it, we fix this, source is category. Oh, we got to set the name range for that. So let's go ahead and set that name range. We want to make sure we have a named range for categories. I cleared that out. So what are our categories? They're right here. So let's set that up here. I'm going to create a name manager. There's nothing on categories, so let's do that now. New, call it category. All right, good. Now we have it. Now we have it. So let's run that now. Run it. Perfect. Okay, so we have our task name. We have our priorities. We have our times, which we just created, and we have our duration. So when we change that, we want to make sure that's 15 minutes. So to do that, where is this coming from? I'll show you in just a second. And our categories are here. Now we have it set. So when you have a drop-down list, we need to set the row source to the named range. So when we activate this user form, I want to update this. This row source for status equals status. That's our named range that we've created already. Duration, another named range that we've created. These are all named ranges that we've created. We're basing it our drop-down list based on the row sorts, times, priority, and then I want to make sure to format anything that needs to be formatted, such as times and dates. They should all be formatted as well. And this, both our time and our duration need to be formatted, otherwise they're going to show up in decimal form. So to do that, when we activate the user form, we just set them. Make sure we set the exact text HMPM. That'll set the formats automatically. So when we run this, we want to make sure that, of course, anything that's there is going to be set automatically. We want the times, duration, these are both times, and then the dates, of course, we want that automatically set too. So that's going to set our date. Okay, so we have our form, and that's how we create a form, basically, and that's what I've done. So I've given you the basics on the form. We didn't go into detail on this form. On other trainings, I go into more detail when I create the forms, but this training we're going to be focused primarily on shapes. Okay, so what do I want? I want that form to appear when I do two things, when I edit it or when I add a new one. So how do we do that? Well, let's take a look in this task macros here, and we're going to focus on that. Again, task edit, that's what I want to do right now. I want to edit that task. When I click this, I want to edit whatever's in here. So how do we do that? Let's write the macro so we can edit any existing task. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is set the task row as long. So dimension task row as long, because we need to know. And then of course with sheet 2, we're focused on sheet 2. I want to make sure that B3, that there actually is a row. Otherwise, if there's no row for the selected task, if there's no row in the database, there's nothing we can do. We have to make sure, because that's our task, that's our located here. So to do that, we want to make sure that B3 contains a value. So let's first do that. If .range B3 equals empty, then let the user know. Then message box, please select a task to edit. Exit sub. Nothing we can do without a task. Okay, so we've got that covered. Moving on, we know, so we can define that task row is equal to whatever's in B3. So we can just copy and paste it here. Equals B3. Now that we have the task row, we can really much update that user form. So basically what I want to do is I want to take all the data here, all of this information, put it inside that form, fill up all the fields inside this form. So how do we do that? We can do that with just a few lines of code. So we can start it out with now that we know the task row, we can start it out the task form. We're going to start it out task form. We can just copy and paste that because we're going to be using that frequently. Task form. Now, let's start out with the task name. What's the name? The name is equal to sheet3.range C and the task row. Let's just minimize that a little bit so we can see all of the task information. We're going to bring this up. That way I can see everything at the same time. I know what we're writing in. So we have all the information that we need and we can see it all. Okay, so we know that C is the task name. So we're going to put that in task row dot value. Call that task name, and I'm going to copy and paste that, at least this part of it. Let's just copy and paste it all and then make the updates accordingly. Okay, so the task form, now we're going to focus on, of course, what's next, the description. So again, that's .des, description equals, coming from D, and we'll call that description. And we just do this for each line of code. So what's next? Now we have the category, so we just get rid of this dot category just to make sure you got the right one, and then that's located in column E. Call it category. Okay, what's next? Next up, after we have the priority. So again, clear that out. Dot priority right here, and then let's locate it in F. Priority. Okay, so we have the priority. We're going to focus on the scheduled date now. We need to know that scheduled date, and that's going to be SC date as we named it inside our form, .sc date. And of course, it's coming from H. And since our form launches, we don't need to format this part because it's already formatted when we launch our form. So that's going to be the task date. And of course, we need to know the time. So that would be SC time, s.sc time. And that's going to come from H. So H is the time. Actually, G is the date. Let's update that. G is the date. Okay, so we've got that. The last one, we just need the duration. So we're going to call that that's duration, I believe, dot duration dot sc duration, and the duration is coming from I. So we're going to fill in our form. So that means all the information is going to be coming in duration and time. Okay, so we've got the duration, we've got the time, and then what we want, last thing is the status. So let's set up the status. We don't need this. Status, task status, and that's going to be here, SC status. Okay, so we got the status coming from J. That's it. That's all the information that we have. And the last thing we want to do is just show the form. So we do that with task form dot show. Show the form. That's it. And with an end sub. Okay. So now we have all the information that we want here under that. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Task edit, we have everything here. Now all we need to do is assign the macro to that edit button. So we can do that here, schedule. And then what I'm going to zoom in because I wanted both on the button and the pencil just to make sure we hit both because it's kind of in a group. So I'm going to hold down the control, click here, and then I'm going to go a little bit outside and click here. Now I've got both selected. I'm going to right click, assign the macro, and we're going to call this task edit. Click OK. Scroll out back to about 100% here. Okay, now we're ready to select our meeting. We edit it. That's what I want. Task name, scheduled, meeting, priority. Nice. Okay, Good. So I want to be able to make changes to this and click save. I want to make changes and click save. So how do we do that? Well, we can do task save, create a new macro called task save, and that's going to save any changes that we make. So let's do that right now. Back into our VBA, and we can maximize this a little bit, and we're going to create a macro called task save. We have it right here. So let's focus on that. Dimension, we're going to task ID again as a string. We can also do it up at the top. Task text as a string. Also the task, the category, let's just write category as string. And also want the task color. I want to automatically set the task color based on the color of here, based on whatever color the user has set right here. So how do we do that? Well, we need to define it into a string. So let's do that. Let's start that out and get that done properly inside the code. So task color as a string. Okay, we also want the, again, I need to know the row and the long dimension, the schedule row as long, and the schedule column as long, and the schedule task row. That task row is very important. We need to know the row. Also with the pending row, if it's on a pending row, I need to know that because we're going to be editing it from a pending as well. Pending row as long. And what else? The duration rows. I need to know the number of duration rows as long. Okay, so we've got all those dimensions set, and I want to know that, again, the interval, let's call that interval as double because that's larger. That the interval is located at the decimal, based on our interval. So that's more. Also dates, again, dimension the SC date as date, and the time as date. SC schedule time as the date as well. So we have both of those as dates. And then I need to know the category. It's important. Based on the category they set here, whatever the category is they set here, I need to look it up on a list. I need to find which one they've selected. And what else do I need to do? I need to then assign that here under base. I need to look it up, find it, and then determine the color that's been assigned to that category. So we can do that. We're going to need to set that as a range, so we can do that now because we need to find it inside a range. So dimension the found category as a range. All right, so that's up for our dimension. First of all, I want to check for the required fields. We need to make sure there are some with like a task name, the category, and we need to make sure that the status or the priority is not empty. So we can do that. We need to make sure that they're all properly set. So if task form task name equals empty, or in fact, I'm just going to copy this and make some changes. So we're going to focus on, or what else? Or the task description can be empty. That's fine. What about the category? I don't want the category to, because we're going to set the colors on that. Or category, we don't want empty. Otherwise, I also don't want schedule status. I don't want that to be empty. Schedule status. What else? I don't want the priority as well, or the priority. I think that's it. Then, okay, so let's change this to priority. So we have those four, making sure we have the dot priority. I want to make sure that I've set the name right so we can use that. Okay, so we want to make sure the task name not empty, the category is not empty, the task, the schedule status, or the form priority. We want to make sure that those are not empty. And if it is empty, we want to give them a message box. So message box, please fill in all required fields. Exit sub. Nothing we can do there if they haven't. Okay, moving along. What else do we need? Let's make this a little bit bigger so we can get. So now that we know we have the required fields, we can focus on sheet 2 with sheet 2. And I want to determine first, we're going to use this save for both new tasks and existing tasks. So I need to determine if it's a new task or an existing task. How do we do that? Well, we can determine in B3. B3 here in the schedule is going to be blank. B3 is going to be blank. Remember, if it's an error. In fact, let me just wrap that on if error, because I don't want, if it's error, I want a blank. So let's just do that. If this is blank, right, for any reason, this is going to be blank. So we can use B3 to determine, because when we click add a task, I'm going to make sure that the selected task goes to blank. when we add a task, I'm going to make sure that the selected task clears out. When it clears out, our task row is automatically going to be blank. So if B3 is blank, we know that it is a brand new task. So we can do that in the following lines of code. If dot range B3 equals empty, then what? Then it's a new task. And if, and then else. Else is going to be existing task. And then we're going to write some code based on existing, and we're going to write some code based on a new. So we're going to call this new task. Okay, so what if it's a new task? Then I need to get a row, right? I need to define a row, and that row is going to be the first available row, in this case 22. So we can do that with this code. So task row equals sheet 3 dot range a 99999 dot end xlup dot row. So that's going to be the row, and we're going to call that +1. That's the first available row. First available row on sheet 3. So now we have the task row. And what about the task ID? Now the task ID is what? Is basically the word task plus this, right? Remember, we're taking the word task plus the next available. The next available is 119, so we need to combine those. That will get us our task ID. So the task ID is equal to the word task and what else? And whatever's in B4, dot range B4 value. That's going to get us our ID. Task ID. So that's going to set up our task ID. That's important because it's a new task. Now sheet 3, let's set our task ID inside sheet 3. Dot range A, that's where our task A and the task row. We only need to do this once for new transaction, equals task ID for new tasks. Set task ID. Okay, so now we've set the task ID. I also want to put that task ID now that we've created it, I want to put it right here inside B2. So let's do that right now. Dot range B2 is equal to the task ID. So we've set the task ID inside B2. That's going to help us. Now what we're doing is ready to sheet 3 be in the task row. So now I want to set the task number also. We need to put that task number right inside here, because that's only going to be for new. Everything else can change based on that, but these two things are only for new tasks. So let's put that task number, I should call that task number, inside B2. Sheet 3 dot range B and the task row dot value equals, of course that's going to equal whatever is in B4. Okay, so that's called the task number. Call that the task number. Okay, so now that we've got the task number, task ID, that's all we need to do. And what else do we need to do? So now we got the task number. Now what I want to do is I need to create this is a brand new task, right? So what do I need to do for new tasks? I need to take this sample shape and I need to duplicate it, and then I need to give it a name. So let's do that now. We have the shape. Remember, we've called it sample. So all we need to do is duplicate it and assign a name. That's really easy. Dot shapes sample dot duplicate, and then I'll assign it a name. Dot name equal, we know what the name is, right? Task ID. We've already assigned it. Task ID. We've assigned it right up here. We've given it the task and the task ID. So that's going to call this create new task shape and assign the name. Okay, so we've done that. That's all we need to do. What if it's an existing task? If it's an existing task, we need to do a few more things. Let's take a look at that. So this is only for new tasks. Only for new. What about existing tasks? Well, the existing task has a task row already, and that's going to be located in B3. Okay, so we know the task row for existing task row, and then also the task ID again is already defined, located in B2. Task ID is, I've got to put the equals here, equals, and then we can just copy this, paste it down here, and change it to B4. So task ID is located in B2, I should say, B2. So we have the task ID and the task row for existing tasks. It already exists. Okay, so now we have that. That's all we need to do. So everything else is going to be for either new or existing. Everything else after this, we're going to do either for new tasks or existing tasks. It wouldn't be any different. So what is the code we have to write? So basically what I want to do is I want to take all the information from the form that we created and place it inside our table. So how do we do that? Start out with sheet 3. Remember, we covered A and B, so we're going to start with C. No matter what, we've already covered the task ID and task. That's already set. So all we need to do is add in all this information. So let's do that right now. Sheet 3 dot range C, and the task row dot value is equal to task form, right? Task name, right? Task name is our first one. Dot value task name, and I'll copy and paste that so it's a little bit quicker, and we'll just make the updates accordingly. In fact, so we're going to be doing, we have C would be the, D would be the description, we have the category, the priority, the date, the time, and the duration. So we're going to focus on D, column D, E, F, G, we need to do them all, H, I, and I think the last one's J, so we have one more to do, I, and then the last one, of course, would be the status. So we need to focus on that, and then the status. Status is the last one. Okay? All right, so those are all the fields that we have to save from our form into our field. Okay, so now we just update these. So again, in this case, it's not task name. In this case, it's description. So dot description. And in this case, let's put that in here, description. And we'll put in the text now, category. And we'll drop this down so you can follow along in the table along. So we're going to follow along in this table here. Category, again, priority is next. We have schedule date. Then we have time, and then duration. Okay, so now all we need to do is take the variables from our form and update them according. This one's category, so dot category. Good, that's good, that's what I want. Make sure we have dot value, again, priority, dot priority here. Next one, schedule date, would be SC date, if I remember correctly. So dot SC date, and then dot time, would get SC time, SC time. And then duration, we're almost done here. SC duration. Okay, and then task name we've already set. Okay, that's good. We've got all that set up. Now, what do I want to do? I want to get the color of the shape. Right? Whether it's a new task or if it's an existing task, if they changed the category, I want to get the color, and I need to determine the color based on whatever color is set here. So again, let's define the category and then locate that. So let's do that right now. The category, put that in a variable, category is equal to the task form dot category. We know that already. So we've got the category. We could use it from sheet 3 as well, but it's fine. Either one is fine. So we've got the category. Now I want to search for it. So we can put in a find. So let's do that. Let's make sure it's not empty first. If category, maybe it shouldn't be, category does not equal empty, then move forward. Okay, so and if. Okay, so that makes sure, just to make sure our category is not empty. So next we can continue. Now I'm going to find it. I want to look for that category in sheet 1. So sheet 1 dot range. What is the range? Category dot find. What am I finding? I'm finding the category that we've defined just above, the category that they've selected, and I'm going to look in XL values, XL whole. I want to look for that. But what I want to do is I want to set the category. So set the range. So set the found category. Remember, we've defined it up there. We've defined it right here. Let's just take a look at that. Found cat as range. So that's what we're going to use. Found cat equal to. In fact, we don't need an end if on here. This is just going to be one line. Then set found category. Okay. That's fine. Then, so basically, as long as it's not empty, we're going to set this range to sheet 1, the category, find. We're looking for that category. We need to find it. So we can write if not found category is nothing, and that means it's found, then what do I want to do? Then the task color, I want to set the task color equal to, what is it equal to? Sheet 1. Let's take a look inside our code. We know the row because it's been found, so it's going to be sheet 1 E and whatever the row is. E and whatever the row is, the interior color of that cell. Sheet 1 dot range E, and the row, we know the row, and found category dot row. So that's going to row, but it's not the value. I want the interior color of that. So how do we get that? So we're going to look at that, the dot display format dot interior dot color. That's going to get us the color. It's going to put it in a variable, string variable inside the task color. Now we have the color stored in this, and now we can apply that color to the shape. Okay, so now we have everything defined. So let's continue on. So now we can add, now we're ready to add the schedule. We have all the information. Now we're ready to add it to the schedule based on everything and based on the changes. So add task to schedule or pending, right? Or pending, or pending. If they've changed the status to pending, we need to move it over, right? If they've edited it, right? If they have edited this task, let's click here. If they've changed this to pending, then I want to move it over to this pending here. Let's go ahead. I want to move it over to here. Okay, so let's take a look at that. First, let's focus on that. So go down here. If task form dot schedule date equals empty, or task form schedule time is empty, right? If they don't have a time either, equals empty, or what? Or task form dot schedule status, right? What if the status is pending equals pending? So if any of those conditions are true, we're going to put it under pending. Then put it under pending, else scheduled. Let's put else scheduled, right? Scheduled or pending. This would be pending. Then this, we're going to put it in the pending. We can do the same thing that we did before. So again, we've actually updated the pending row. We need to get the pending row again. We updated it already here. So let's just copy and paste the pending row here. We know the pending row because we've already done it. We've defined it up here, so we don't need to define it again. So the pending row is equal to this. I'll call that the pending row. And then again, with the shapes, now we've got the row. Again, let's focus on, this is only if it's pending, right? So with dot shapes task ID, we're going to set this, in this case it's pending. So again, let's do the in fact, we can just copy this. Let's just copy it all, everything we've did here, pretty much the same thing here, and let's focus on this. So we can copy that. I'll save a little bit of time because we've already, so we'll double check it, make sure everything's right. With, we don't need that. So the text frame is sheet 3 task row, that's right. The height will be A3, the left will be, everything's good. Okay, so that's it. That's all we need to do for that. And then of course we do need the fill color. Now I need the fill color. So let's put the fill color in. So make sure it's not empty. If the task color does not equal empty, then dot fill, we're already on the shapes, dot for color, dot RGB equals the task color, equals the task color. Now we're setting it. Okay, so that's all we have to do if it's pending, right? We've already basically copied it. We copied the width, the height, the left. All of this is based on pending. Okay, so we've done that. And we got too many end widths here. We don't need that. Okay, so width shape. Now we can focus on if it's scheduled. So we covered the pending. Now we're going to go if it's scheduled. So again, let's focus on that part. First, we can set the schedule date. Schedule date is equal to task form.sc date. Right, we know the date. That's the scheduled date. Appreciate you sticking with me on these long trainings, but I try to pack in tons of value. Schedule time, we're going to focus on that one, and this is going to be equal to the task form SC time. You've pretty much figured that out by now, time. And what it has it been scheduled for the current week, right? I only want to make, what if it's scheduled for the previous week? What if it's scheduled, then we don't want to put it on the schedule here, right? We should really delete it. We only want to put it here if it's scheduled for the current week. So I need to know, is it between, does it equal or is it after this date, December 30th? And is it equal or less than this date, K4? So we can put that inside some VBA. So let's take a look. If the SC date is less, let's just put greater than or equals to the E4, right? E4 is our first day of the week, E4. We need to make sure that dot range E4 value, and right, it must be less than or equal, and schedule date is less than or equal to our last day, which would be K4, dot range K4. Only then do we create it. Okay, so then we're going to create it, right? Only if it's in the existing week. So what do we have to do? The schedule column, we're going to schedule column is equal to, we need to set that up. How do we know the schedule column? Well, we know the date, right? What if the date is December 31st? What is the column? It's going to be column equals column 6, right? So how do we know that? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract December 31st minus the first day, which in this case is December 30th. And that's going to give me 1. So if I need it in column 6, all I need to do is add 5. It would be the same thing for this. If it's scheduled for December 30th and I subtract December 30th, we're going to get 0. And if I add 5, column 5. So all I need to do is subtract the first day of the week and then add 5. That's going to get us the proper column that we need to add it in. So let's do that. The schedule column is equal to the schedule date minus whatever is located in E4, dot range E4 plus 5, plus 5. And that's the schedule column. So we know the column, of course, now we need the row. We always need the row. So what's the schedule row? Schedule row is equal to, again, let's focus on this. Again, basically, let's say it's for 8:45, right? How do we know what row it is? How do we know what row? Well, basically, we're going to use the first row. In this case, we can use start time. Start time we know is 8 o'clock. So what if I subtract 8:45 minus 8:45? It's going to give me 45 minutes, right? And if I multiply that times the interval, again, it's going to tell us how many columns. And of course, we have to add 4 onto or 5 onto that. So we can do that. And I'll show you, let me write it out and then we'll show you how that works. So schedule row is going to be the, again, schedule time, we know the time, minus what? Minus the start time. We already have that inside a variable, start time. So that's going to get us the total time. We're going to divide that by the interval. Divided that by the interval. We set that in a variable already, interval. Okay, so we have that. So now we have that division. So that's going to get us the number, right? So we know, and now all we need to do is add 5 to that. Add 5. That's going to give us, so for example, let me just show you that. Let's say the start time is, it's probably easier. Let's say the start time is 8 o'clock. 8 a.m. in the start time. So we subtract 8 a.m. minus 8 a.m. It's going to get us 0. No intervals. And then we add 5. It's going to get us 5. If it's 8:15, we're going to subtract. We're going to get total of 15 minutes. Subtracting 8:15 minus 8 o'clock is going to get us 15 minutes. And we divide 15 minutes divided by 15 minutes is going to give us 1. So then we add 1 to 5 and it's going to get us 6. So that's how we get the row. We determine the row there. This will determine our schedule row, just like that. The schedule row is equal to the schedule time minus the start time divided by the interval of plus 5. A little bit confusing, but you can get it. Of course, download this for free and you can walk through it yourself. Okay, so now we have the schedule row, but now we need to also know the duration rows. I need to know how long. We know the starting row. I know the starting row, but how many rows should we fill in that shape? It's going to be based on the number of rows, based on the duration. So let's set our duration rows. Our duration rows is equal to, I'm going to round it off just to make sure that it's a whole number. So we're going to round that off. Sheet 3 dot range I is our duration row and the task row dot value. Okay, that is going to round. That's our duration, right? We're focused on our duration. So our duration starts in I. That's going to get us, and I need to divide that, of course, by the duration, by the interval. So we need to do that. I divided by the interval, which we have here, interval. And then, of course, it's part of the round, so I don't want any decimal, so I'm going to make that 0. So that's going to get us our duration rows. That's the number of duration rows. Call that duration rows. And all I did was basically take the duration, divide it by the interval, and make sure we round it off. Going to get us the number of duration rows. I also need to set the task. What is the task text? Again, it's the same thing that we did before. So let's just write that out here. We've already set up the task test right here. It's right here. I want basically all of this. Again, the duration where we did the same thing before here. Okay, so back into the here. So now we have that. I'm just going to paste that in. It makes it a little quicker. Task test, again, is equal to the hours and all of that, the time, the name, the description, and the priority. So we have all of that inside the task test. Now we're ready to create our shape. So with .shapes task ID, okay, and now we're ready to write that. Again, let's focus on the left. .left, we have everything now. .left equals sheet 2 .cells schedule row schedule column .left. In fact, we can probably just copy and paste the same thing we did before because we've done almost that. Let's put that, let's bring it up here. We've done everything here. We did the top left already. And task ID, we can just copy that here, go back in here and paste it in here. So the top, that's gonna, we'll double check everything. The width is gonna be the same, the height, and the text frame. Okay, so we have all that, but we do need to add in the color now because we're gonna add in that. So what is the task color? Let's just make sure we can do that. We've already updated the task color here. We can do that. Just copy and paste that here. And we ought to add in the color as well here. Okay, so we've got all of that here. Let's bring that over, make sure that's all even, bring it over all the way to top. Okay, so width, we got the left position, we got the top, we got the width, we've got the height, we've got the task test, and we've got the color now. So else, but what about, so now all of this is if the schedule, let's move this over here. All right, I like that better. If the scheduled date, right, is less than, right, this is if there's a scheduled date, it's within the week. But what if it's not? Else not in week. Then I want to make sure that we delete it in case that task has already been created. In case that task is already being displayed, I need to delete it. But if it doesn't, I'm just going to wrap it in on as resume next, right? If that shape is not, if that task is not inside that week, we need to delete the shape. And we'll recreate it. Don't worry when we create a test. So on our redirect .shapes task ID .delete. Delete any task not scheduled in the current week. Okay, and then on air go to 0. Okay, so we have that. That's it. That's all we need to do. So, all right, good. I've got that. Let's take a look at that. And let's double check that. I think that's everything we need for this macro, for the edit macro. Again, we're going to save our work here. And let's go back into that. And then we'll edit the schedule. Let's take a look at that. Let's make some changes to that. Let's schedule it for the second day. Make some changes. We'll schedule it for not 9:30. Let's put it for 8:30 and then make it a 2-hour destination and click save and debug it. We have the start time interval. All right, let's update this to the actual cell. So it's going to be sheet 1 dot range. I think it's C4. So let's reset this bug. Close this out. Let's take a look at the. Let's set it to here right in your C4. Instead of using the variable C4 dot value. And then what we'll do is we'll do the same thing. We won't use this interval since it's a very small decimal here. We can also put that into an actual variable, double variable, which might work better. Okay, so let's check it out and take it out now. Edit that and then save it and then update this to minus. And then reset and then rerun it. Okay, good. Let's take a look at that now. Update that, save it. Okay, that looks good. I think it worked just fine, but we do need to hide the shape so that it works properly. So let's just update that. Add in, so we've got now what we want to do is we want to hide the shapes.edit group. I'm going to hide that. We don't need that anymore. .visible equals, and so false, we can hide that. We also want to clear the contents of B1 range. B1, no longer do we need that shape value. Clear those contents. And also we need to hide, we're going to take that form and hide it. We don't need that user form anymore. So task form .hide, and we want to unload the form. Unload means clear all the forms out. Task form, clear all fields in the form. Okay, let's take a look at that. Now let's see if we can update that form. Okay, so I think we're good now. Let's make another update just so we can change it up. Let's change it to, let's say 8:45 on the 3rd, same week, and click save. All right, that's what I want. Click on it, perfect. So now it automatically, nice. Okay, very good, very good. And then update the schedule, updates it. Perfect, that's what I want. Okay, we're looking good. We got just a few more things and then I'm gonna let you go. We do need to add a task. Let's add that task. So we're gonna run that, create that macro so we can add a new task. That's super important. Let's do that right down here, okay? Now we just, and then delete a task and then we're done. So very, very simple. Okay, so what do we want to do with sheet 2, add a task? Super simple here. Dot range B2, clear the contents, right? We want to make sure that we're no longer, this is a brand new task. So again, I want to clear this any selected task here. B2 dot value, clear those contents, dot clear contents. And also I want to show the task form. So task form dot show. Super simple here. That's all I want to do because it's going to be blank. So let's assign that macro to this button right here. Okay, so add a task here. Right click the button, the group, assign the macro, task, and add. Add new, that's what I want. So click on add new and it adds a brand new task. That's working good. Cancel closes the form out. All right, let's create add a task now. We'll call it lunch with Fred. And the status, we'll give it a status of, let's just put it scheduled, and a category of personal, priority of low. Fred's not that important to us. Scheduled for December 31st, 2019, and let's put a time of 11 a.m. here, 11:30 a.m., and then duration of, we'll just give Fred 1 hour. Take him to McDonald's. We don't have enough money for Fred, and save that. Okay, that looks good. 11:30 a.m. Fred's also scheduled. The color looks right. Let's edit that and change the status of that. Let's change the status. That doesn't look right. Let's fix that in the process and then save that. That doesn't look. Let's look into tasks. That let's update the status because when we save it, that status isn't right. So let's update that. Task macros, the save on that, right? We need to fix that equals, that's not the task name, obviously. That should be schedule status. Okay, schedule status. All right, so now we've updated that. That's got the right status there. Let's reset that. Okay, and okay, let's reset that. And we got that. Now we got the right status. Let's update these to schedule just so we don't create an issue. Now we've got the right ones. Copy those and just put them all scheduled. And all right, now we've got it all scheduled up. Now we can change that. Let's go ahead and now it's scheduled, and I'm going to change the color. Let's call it exercise. It changes nicely. The color changes nicely. Now let's drag it over here and click update the task. That looks good. Change it over here. Update the tasks. Notice that the times change automatically. I like it. Now all we need to do is delete it. We've added the task, added a brand new task, we've deleted it, and then we have to add the next and previous weeks. Those are pretty easy macros. So let's just go over that. Let's put the delete task in, and then we'll focus on the next and previous. Okay, so what is the delete? So again, when we delete it, we're going to dimension the task row as long. And I also need to know the task ID. So dimension the task ID as a string. And also, what do I need to know? I need with sheet 2, focused on sheet 2. I want to make sure that B2 is not empty, right? We must have a row if B2 is empty, or task ID. We have to make sure that that exists. So let's move that on. I can't delete a shape if there's no name on that. So actually we need a row and a shape. So both of those. So if dot range B2 dot value equals empty, then message box, please select a task to delete. Exit sub. Nothing we can do if we cannot actually get the shape. Okay, so now that we do, let's move on. Let's give the user a warning. If message box, are you sure you want to delete this task? Question mark, and then VB yes, no, and then give it a title, call it delete task, and then equals VB no, then exit sub. So if they answered no, we're exiting the sub. Okay, now assuming they have answered yes, we can define the task row is equal to whatever's in B3, task row, and we also need the task ID located in B2, dot range B2. So now we have the task ID in the task row. Now we can remove the information. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure to remove the shape. We can use on air zoom next. And so dot shapes and bring the width down here. We don't need that. Okay, so dot shapes, task ID, dot delete. We can delete them. We're just going to recreate them. And then on air, go to 0. Okay, so we have that, and now all we need to do is clear out. I want to clear out everything in this. Other than I want to keep the task name and the task ID, but I want to clear everything out. So on sheet 3, C through J, I want to clear out. So how do we do that? Sheet 3 dot range C and the task row and colon and all the way through J and the task row dot clear content. So that's going to clear everything out from that. All right, and now what I want to do is also the shapes dot shapes in case we have the edit group. I'm going to hide that too. We don't need that anymore. Dot visible equals MSO false, right? We don't want that edit shape icon anymore. All right, let's take a look at that and see how that's going to work. And let's say Fred canceled on us. He stood us up, so we can no longer, we're going to select it, and then we're going to assign a macro to this and the outside shape, to both of those here. All right, right click and then assign the macro, and then we'll scroll this up, and then task delete. Click OK, and now click delete, and without, and if, forgot that. Okay, reset that. It's going to ask us our question. Are you sure you want to delete this task? Click no. Make sure that we don't delete it. Okay, in this case, we're going to click yes, and it's gone. And then let's go and look, make sure that everything is gone. Everything is gone here. Good. That's what I want. Everything's gone. This was from failed attempts in case we had. Okay, so let's clear all that out. Let's just clear that last data out. Now we're looking good. Now all we need to do is just add in one more next week and previous week. That's very, very simple. So let's get on that right now. And I'm going to put that right in here in this schedule refresh. We have previous week, next week, and then schedule refresh. We don't need the schedule refresh really. We do. What I'll do is I'll create a macro called schedule refresh, and then I'll add that into previous and next week. So for previous and next week, it's really simple. All I need to do is subtract E4 by 7 or add it. So let's do that. Okay, so the previous week is basically sheet 2 dot range E4 dot value equals same thing, sheet 4 minus 7. So sheet 2 equals minus 7. Very simple. And the next one is plus. And then I'm going to run the schedule refresh macro. We're going to create this macro just to refresh the schedule based on some information. So then that's all we're going to do. And this one's going to be plus 7. Very simple. So we can copy all this and then just change it to plus 7. Okay, so we have that. That's all we need for those two macros for the next week, and I can assign those macros. But let's write. So we're going to use the same macro for both previous week or next week, and it's just simply going to refresh the schedule. So let's write that now. Dimension the last task row. Basically what I want to do, I want to look at all these tasks here, and I want to run an advanced filter through all these. And I want to base it on the current week. So basically it needs to be with equal or greater than this day, or less than or equal to this day. So we can use those inside filters. And I also want to make sure that it's been scheduled, right? I want to make sure it's not unscheduled. So we can use advanced filter to do that. So I've set up a criteria here. Again, it's going to be greater than or equal to E4, which is the first day of the week. And it also needs to be less than or equal to last day of the week. And it also must not equal pending, must not equal pending. So that's our criteria. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get our results, and I'm going to place those results right in here. Then I'm going to run through each row. I'm going to determine the last row. I'm going to run through each one, and I'm going to create a shape based on this schedule, and I'm going to place that shape accordingly inside the week. So let's do that. All right, so I'm going to dimension the last task row as long. That's important. I need to know the last row and the last result row as long. And we're going to run through each result row. So we're going to go through each one. So we need to determine the result row as long, and the schedule row and the schedule column. Schedule row as long. Schedule column is long too. Schedule column as long. And the duration rows as long. Okay, so we need to know all that information there. All right, so we're going to dimension the task shape as shape. So that's important. We want to know because I want to remove all the shapes that are on there currently and refresh it. And then dimension the task ID as a string, the category as a string, and the status as a string, task text, remember, as a string. We can copy and paste most of what we did. Task color as a string, and also dimension the schedule date as a date and the schedule time as a time. Schedule time as a date as well. Okay, so we need those, both of those as date. And also we're going to do the same thing with the category. We need to look for that. So dimension the found category. And most of this we can just copy and paste. And dimension the found category as a range. We're going to do the same thing we did last time. Okay, so again, first thing I want to do is just hide a few things. So sheet 2, again, the edit group dot shapes edit group. I want to hide that. We're not going to need that. So dot visible equals MSO false. So we can hide that. And next up, what I want to do is I also want to clear any task that might be in B2. Any task that's located here, I want to clear that out in B2. So we can do that. We don't need the extra shapes here. We just need one. That was for experimenting. Okay, so we can clear out sheet 2 dot range B2 dot clear contents, clear shape cell. Okay, we don't need that anymore. Also, what I want to do now is I want to clear out all the shapes on the sheet, but I need to make sure I can't clear all. I don't want to clear out these buttons, right? I don't want to clear out our sample. So I want to clear out all the shapes basically below row 4 and all the way to the right of, let's say, B, making sure that we just want to clear out all the shapes and we want to make sure that they contain the word task. So how do we do that? How do we clear out all the shapes? So we can do that with sheet 2, I guess I could have defined it above, for each task shape in dot shape. So all the shapes on the sheet, next task shape. Make sure we close our loop. And what do we want to do? If the task shape dot top left cell dot column has to be greater, right? I don't want to mess with those samples. So I want to make sure that the column is greater than 3 because I don't want to mess up our unscheduled. I want to keep them right where they are. And I only want to focus on our scheduled. So the column is going to be greater than 3. So let's write that out. Column is greater than 3. And what? I also want to make sure that the row is greater than, let's say, 4 or 3. So let's write that in now. And the task shape dot top left cell dot row is greater than 3, and I want to make one more check. I want to make sure that the shape name includes the word task. So how do we do that? And in string task shape dot name. I just don't want to delete any shapes that we need. Make sure task includes the word task is greater than 0. Then we can delete it. Only then. So how do we do that? Task shape dot delete. So we can delete that. So that means it's going to delete every shape in the schedule, but not our buttons, and of course not our. Make sure you save before you do this, because if you do actually delete your buttons, you can at least go back and not save it. Okay, so that completes our loop. That's going to delete everything. Let's just run that right away and make sure that I'm going to save it and make sure that that deletes our schedule. So I'm going to run that here and then minimize that and make sure that we only had one, so it's fine. That's exactly, our buttons are still here, our shapes are still here, our sample's still here, and we didn't have any unscheduled. So okay, that looks really good. Now let's continue on. Now all we need to do is build out and build our weekly shape. So we can do that, and that's going to be based on with sheet 3. The first thing we want to do is run our advanced filter, basically take all these tasks, run them through the criteria here, and get our results here. So we got to get the last row here to do that. So let's define that with, we're focused now on with sheet 3. So sheet 3 is our data. With sheet 3, what do we want to do? I want to get the run our advanced filter for current week. And so we can do that. The last task row is equal to dot range, and then we'll just use a 9999 and then end xlup dot end xlup dot row Okay, so now we have, I want to make sure that there's data. We don't want to run an advanced filter if there's no data. So we have to check if the last row is less than 4, then we can just go to no data, exit out of that. If the last task row is less than 4, then go to no data. And we're going to set no data down here just to make sure. Let's just go down all the way down here. No data. Nothing to do there. Okay. So assuming that there is data, we can move on. Now we're ready to run our advanced filter. So dot range, and let's drop this down a little bit so we can see our data. We can look at everything. Dot range, we're already on sheet 3. Again, it's A must include the headers 3 through J, and what do we want? Last task row dot advanced filter. We're going to copy that. We're going to copy it to another location. Criteria range colon equals, what is our criteria? Dot range, it is this criteria, N2 here through P3. So that's our criteria. N2 through P3, not value, so we don't need that. And then we need our copy to range. Copy to range colon equals dot range. Where are we copying it to? Let's take a look at that. We're copying it to our range here all the way from R2 all the way through AA2. R2 through AA2. R2 through AA2. Not value. And so also unique, it's unique equals false. Okay. All right, let's take a look at that. The A through J, the last task row, advanced filter, we're going to copy it. Criteria dot range N2 through P3. We're going to use the copy to range where we want the results from R2 through AA2. Okay, that looks good. Now we get the last results row. So the last result row is equal to dot range. We can use R and then 99999 and XL up. Dot end XL up dot row. Let's give us the last row. If the last result row is less than, in this case 3 is less than 3, then go to no data. Then go to no data. Right? No data, if we don't have any data here, we can't go on. Okay, but assuming that there is data, now we can build out our schedule. So how do we do that? We need to define all the variables first, and we need to set a loop also. So for, we need to go through, because I want to build a shape for each one of these. So for R3 through all the way to 11, R3 through 11, we're going to build our loop. So it's for result row equals 3 to the last result row, and then next result row. Okay, so that's going to get us our loop. Now inside that, we're going to create a shape for everything. So we have the task ID, that's the important thing, we need that, and that's going to be located in R, right? Dot R, and our result, and the result row equals, okay, so task ID is equal to whatever's in R, and that's our task ID. And then of course we have category. Let's pull up, let's copy this, and then we'll just make some changes. So we have category next. Category is equal to V. Category is located in V. Now we need to check if the category does not equal empty, then we need to find that category. Remember, I need to get the color. Then set found cat equal to sheet 1 dot range category. Remember, we have that already. Category. We can actually use category. You can use the brackets here because we have it category. But I'm not sure if it works so well on find. So let's just sheet 1 dot range category dot find. And what are we going to find? We're going to find the category. Category, the one, because I need to find it to assign the color. Category, XL values, XL whole. Okay, so that's going to help us find the category. And we've pretty much done the same thing here. So let's copy and paste this here. Here we've done it all here. So format interior color. We can do that. We just copy that, paste it right in here. So if Okay, so if not, the category is nothing, then sheet 1, we've assigned the task color, so we did that already. Okay, so now we've got the interior color of the category. We know that. We put it into a variable, and now let's get the date. So what is the date? The date is going to be based on, let's just say, let's put in the SC date. SC date is equal to, we know that's located in column X, so it's going to be, that X is going to be our date, and we also need the time. So X, this is going to be our schedule date, and then we need the time. SC time is going to be equal to the time. Okay, so time is located in, of course, Y. That's going to help us get our variables. So now we have time and we have date. What else do we need? We need the column, right? Schedule column. What is that? Of course, it's going to be equal to the SC, equal to the SC date minus, just like we did before, minus sheet 2, the first date, dot range E4. We already wrote that out, E4, but just dot value. So that's the first day, again, plus what? Plus 5, right? That's the column, plus 5. That'll give us our schedule column. Now all we need is the row. Schedule row equal to, again, let's do it, the schedule time minus the start time, right? Minus the start time. We've already done that in the variable. Again, divided by the interval. We know that interval. In fact, let's just put the interval sheet 1 out just to make sure, because sometimes on the brackets it doesn't work as well. Range, again, what is our interval? Let's just write it out. Interval dot value plus 5. That's going to get us the same thing we did before. Schedule row duration is equal to, what is it? Of course, it's in Z. So dot range Z and the result row. That's going to get us our duration. Now all we need is the duration. Now all we need is how, and now all we need is the duration rows. So the duration rows is equal to round. Remember, we always want to round it out. Round it out is going to be the duration divided by interval. We just have it up here, right here, so no problem. We can copy and paste it from right here, paste it in here. Okay, so we have the interval, and then 0. Of course, we don't want any digits after that. We just want a whole number. So the duration rows are going to get us. So that's going to get us the duration rows. And now the task text. We've done that already a few times, so we can just copy it over here. The task test is going to be the same as here. And also, I'm going to copy this, all of this here, so we can set that all up. Okay, and also what we need to do is we have it here, the task test, and we have the shape. I'll do everything here. We can just copy that and the schedule refresh here. So now what we can do is we've already defined the task test here. We know what that is, but it's going to be a little bit different because, right, we're located here. So instead of H, we want the time, and the time is going to be located in Y in the results row. So again, we just wanted to update this. This is going to be Y and the result row this time, right? Result, not, but of course the time. And then of course our name is going to be located in T in the result row. And then the description is located in this case U in the result row. So copy the word result row and put in our description is going to be T in the result row. U and the result row here. So we just have the result row right here. Okay, so last up, we have the priority, and our priority is located in W and the result row. So we're going to put in W and the result row. So all we do is just update that. Okay, that's all we need to do. Okay, the task ID, we have that. The left, we've got the schedule column, we've got the schedule row, we've got the width, we've got the height, the frame, and then the color. I think we're going to be good. So that's going to be for each one. End with next result row, and then we have no data down here, which is right, and we'll clean that up a little bit, and let's save our work, and let's just run this, check for any bugs. Let's see, we just need unique UE equals false. Okay, and then update that duration variable. We need to define duration and put that down. Let's just put that duration up here as a date, so we wanted to mention that too. Duration. Okay, let's rerun that, check for any bugs. And again, task ID. Okay, one more line of code here, which we didn't because we copied and pasted. So it's one we need to create it from scratch here. So let's do that. Sheet to, remember, we're dot shapes. We're going to take that sample, and again, we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to assign a name, and then that name is going to be equal to the task ID. Okay, because we do have to create that. We need to duplicate that because that's going to be updated automatically. All right, so now we have the shape. Now let's run it, and then, okay, new task ID, and I do need to specify this to make sure we're set up with sheet 2. Okay. All right, let's run that code again. Okay, that looks good. There we go. That's the way I want it. So let's assign our macros. Assign the macro. Remember, I already had data in there, so that's why. So we're going to assign this to previous week, and we're going to assign this to next week. So assign the macros, and then this is going to be next week. Click OK. All right, so next week, previous week. Oh, that looks really good. You see how fast that works? Super fast. So previous week, next week. All right, let's test these things out, make sure everything is working before I let you go. I'm going to drag this to the unscheduled. I'm going to update that. I'm going to do the same thing with this. Drag this thing over here and update that. That looks nice. Next week, previous week, notice our unscheduled. Let's say I bring it over here, and now I'm bringing it over to this week. Update the task. I like that. Let's edit that text. Let's change the date to the 10th, and let's change the time and the duration also. Change it to a longer, and then click save automatically. Nice. Excellent. Then we're almost there. There's just one other thing I'd really like to have. You know what would be a nice feature? If I were to highlight these days and click add a task, I want the date, the time, and the duration automatically set. How do we do that? Well, that's relatively easy. Let's go into the VBA and see how we can do that under the add new. So inside the add new, we'll bring this up, and what I want to do is I want to go into the task macros on this add new, just make a few small updates before I show the form. So the first thing I want to do is I want to check to see in the selected row, make sure that whatever's in row 4 is a date, and if it is that date, I want to update that. So we can do that. So for example, if is date dot cells, and then of course we're focused on row 4, and then the selected column, whatever the active cell dot column is. So whatever's in there, cell column dot value, whatever's in that, if that equals true, then we know it's a date. So then we can do task form, right? Scheduled date is equal to, again, all we need to do is equal to this date. That's going to set the default to that date before we show the form. That's what I want. Schedule date. Okay, what about the time? Again, we can do the same thing. If active cell dot row is great, we need to make sure it's greater than 4, right? Greater than 4, and the active cell, make sure it's less than 96. Active cell dot row is less than 96. Then what do we need to do? Task form schedule time is equal to dot range. We know our times are located in column D, and the active cell dot row, and that's going to be the schedule time. What about the duration? Well, the duration is, again, task form dot schedule duration is equal to the selection dot rows dot count times what? Times the interval. The interval. Put the brackets in, interval. That's it. Okay, that's all we need to do. Now let's do it. Now let's highlight these and click add task. And that's exactly what I want. Let's take a look at that, make sure it's set up right. 8:45 p.m., 8:45 a.m., and the duration is 2 hours and 15 minutes. Let's try that once more. I'm going to schedule a 1-hour meeting for this time for Friday, January 10th, starting at 8 a.m. Add a task, and Friday, date 1:10, 8 a.m., 1 hour. Perfect. All right, great. I'm glad I got to show that to you. That's a nice little feature that we have, and it was very easy to add in. Good. I hope you appreciate this extra long training. I know it's been a long one, but we had a lot to cover. We did a lot. We showed you how to create brand new task manager using shapes only, not cell-based, how to drag and drop shapes, how to reschedule them, update them, color them, assign them to specific cells, specific times, and dates. All right, if you like these trainings, I've got over 100. I do appreciate your support. And doing that, you can pick up our 100 workbooks for just $37. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.